Hey, I'm Kate Verlautz, Director of High School Ministry, and I am so excited to share with you guys part of our lesson on the resurrection today. Our text comes from 3 different books of the Bible. We have Luke 24, 1 through 24. We have Matthew 28, 1 through 10, and Mark chapter 16, 1 through 8. We have 3 different and unique stories at the end of our Gospels about Jesus's resurrection. Now, whenever I hear a story a couple times in the Gospels, it makes me even more assured that these events truly happened. We don't just have one author's perspective on the events that transpired after Jesus' death. We have 3 different perspectives on the events that transpired. And as you know, if you and a buddy are watching a basketball game, or if you and a friend are attending a play, you're gonna get different things out of the experience, right? Your friend is more focused on wanting to have a buzzer beater thing happen at the end of the game. You're more focused on, is their offense and defense performing well, right? You go see a play together and you're like, wow, I really like the set design and the scenery. And your other friend says, but did you listen to the character's script? Oh, how the costumes and dresses move together, right? Everybody gets something different out of the same experience. It's all how we interpret it. And that's just like the ending of 3 of our Gospels. 3 different perspectives on what really did happen on Easter Sunday, on that very first morning when Jesus was raised from the dead. Now, if you check out Matthew's version here, which is the first one you encounter if you're going through the Bible chronologically in the New Testament, Matthew really shares that there were some women, Mary Magdalene, we've heard her name before, she's a close friend of Jesus's, and the other Mary. We don't know who this other Mary was. Some authors think, oh, it was Mary, Jesus's mom. Mary was a super common name in Jewish history and still is a super common name. Could have been Mary from the Mary and Martha story. We don't really know which Mary this was, but we know Mary Magdalene was there, and then Mary, the other Mary. And they get there, there's an earthquake. Roman soldiers are scared and they drop their weapons because they were guarding the tomb. And then the stone is rolled back. It looks like heaven is appearing before them. And they actually see and meet Jesus in this Matthew chapter 28, verse 1 through 10. So that's one historical perspective on the resurrection, is the 2 of those ladies meet Jesus and he says, do not be afraid. Go and tell my brothers to go to Galilee. Brothers meaning the disciples, his closest friends. I mean, these 2 Marys were his closest friends too. But he gives the news to them, almost knowing that his besties are going to be like, are you sure it's you, right? We hear more about that later. Mark has a really interesting perspective on the whole gospel story of Jesus's life and ministry. Mark's a shorter book of the Bible as well, if you've ever taken the time to read it. He's very succinct and to the point. Matthew is writing for a different audience. Luke is writing for a different audience. This is why we have different historical perspectives in the Bible, right? So Mark, in chapter 16, verse 1 through 8, Mark really is like, boom, to the point. This is what happened. An angel appears and says, do not be alarmed. Mary Magdalene, Mary, mother of James, and Salome brought spices. This was very customary to bring spices to anoint a body, to make it smell better once your loved one had passed away in Jewish tradition and culture. So they were gonna go to the tomb, but they're like, the stone's rolled away. They were really worried about how they were gonna get this huge stone rolled away. And then there's an angel that greets them there, not Jesus in Mark's perspective. Moving on to Luke chapter 24, the resurrection of Jesus. This, I think, is the most, Luke's very detailed in how he writes his narratives. And so Luke says it was the first day of the week, early at dawn, when they came to the tomb. So it's setting the scene for us a little bit there, right? And this one just says they, right? And it doesn't really mention who was there until later on, after they see this angel, these two angels actually in Luke's version. Two angels were there announcing Jesus had been resurrected. That would have maybe even been more terrifying than seeing Jesus resurrected himself, right? Mary Magdalene, Joanna, Mary, mother of James, and other women. So there's like a group of women this time instead of just two or three, like the other perspective suggests. So some really cool stuff happening here. But it all makes you sit and wonder, like, how would you personally react to Jesus being resurrected? You just 2 days ago watched your best friend brutally beaten and murdered and shamed for crimes that you know he did not commit because a religious faction, right? The Jewish people, a religion that you have loved and followed your entire life, think he is a bad apple, right? Think he is out to cause mischief and harm and danger. And you watch your best friend die in a very public way. And it's humiliating. You're afraid because you're thinking like, I followed him for like 3+ years. Am I next? Because I believe in the words and I trust the message in the story. So you're out in hiding probably, and you're so sad, right? You think about any loved one, any pet, any animal, right? Anyone that dies, we feel distraught, right? And you imagine that to be someone you're so close with, and then watching that transpire and happen. Just devastating for these disciples. So the fact that these women had the courage to even go to the tomb to practice these burial practices after such a public death was huge, huge, huge. But some pretty cool perspectives. So my questions for you today, after you read this text for yourself, I really encourage you, again, Luke 24, 1 through 12, Matthew 28, 1 through 10, Mark 16, 1 through 8. How would you react to hearing a close friend or family member had been resurrected? What would you say? What would you do? Right? Angels greet you, or maybe you see them, but you don't realize it's them because they look so different right away. All right? How would you react to hearing a close friend or family member has been resurrected? Okay. Number 2, what do you want to hear more about in these stories? I love this question, and I think it's an important and necessary question. We're not getting all the details of this story, right? Like you think about somebody explaining something really funny that happened or really cool or really impactful of their life. Well, we weren't there to experience that, so we actually have no idea if that is the exact version of what went down, right? So what do you want to hear more about from this story, from these 3 perspectives, right? What questions do you have about it, okay? Have you ever, then, number 3, have you ever had a wake-up call or a resurrection moment, as we call it? Have you had a moment in your life where you thought, in this moment, I'm going to go forward differently than I have before? Something has woken me up to how the world is, or something has very changed in my life, and I'm now going to move forward differently. I'm curious, so share with your small group on Wednesday when you log on for our Connect lesson about what's going on. Share with your family too. Ask your parents, have you had a resurrection moment in your life? I think that would be really cool to hear their answers and perspective. Have a great rest of your week. Take care, and remember, Jesus loves you.